You're welcome.
And finally this week, Zimbabwe, an economic mess at the best of times, though, to be fair, gradually improving. But March the 1st marked an interesting deadline. It's one for companies in Zimbabwe to show how they intend to transfer 51% of ownership to black Zimbabweans. This is part of a new policy by President Robert Mugabe, and failure to comply could mean up to 5 years in prison. Nwotaser reports from Harare on another very controversial business move in a country which is unfortunately used to them.
Robert Mugabe's supporters want their president to fast-track what's called the indigenization process, under which companies will be legally obliged to transfer a majority of their shares into the hands of black Zimbabweans. It follows the takeover of white-owned farms, a controversial policy which is almost complete. Now officials say the next step is taking over business concerns.
We want to give our own citizens a chance to participate in the economic development of our country, period. So if anybody moves around coming with this silly argument that it's a ploy to line pockets of the president's friends, the president has a duty to empower the people of his country. He's in that office at the expense, and he must certainly see to it that the people of this country develop. That is his duty, simple and straightforward.
Companies worth more than $500,000 US have until mid-April to show how they're going to comply with the share transfer scheme. Those who don't could face up to 5 years in jail. It's a plan that's worrying both foreign and local investors. This is Zimbabwe's equivalent of Wall Street. The country's economy grew by almost 5% last year, the first growth in a decade. But investors fear that this indigenization law could jeopardize any future economic growth. Some critics fear the only ones who will benefit are the president's supporters.
I believe the indigenization concept, especially when they tie it to their so-called economic empowerment, is actually very misguided, and it will not lead to the empowerment of the masses. It will lead to maybe a temporary benefit for a few senior people who become the directors and the people who gain control over these companies. But the companies themselves will stop functioning very quickly, very much like the farms stopped functioning after they gained control over those.
Prime Minister Tsvangirai has called for a review of the plan to ease the fears of investors, but it seems he could be too late.
Trying to do things that are, in my mind, largely politically motivated, with a devil-may-care attitude to what effect it has on foreign investment, is irresponsible, because the people of this country are tired of it. They need to make money. They don't need to hear about. Is it better to have 51% of $1 or 25% of $100? I mean, do the arithmetic. It's very simple.
The split between Zimbabwe's president and prime minister raises more questions about who's actually running this country. It's a dispute that could end up destroying whatever business confidence that's left.
Plenty of business news.